Hey guys, and welcome to part 2 of my Crafters, Bankers, and World Drops recipes video. We're going to be covering the armor crafting professions and all the random world drop recipes in this video, so if you haven't watched part 1 yet, I'd highly suggest you do so first, then come back to this one. And remember, I'm only talking about crafted BOEs. The whole point of these videos is to give you a better understanding of how each profession can help to gear up and prepare everyone for the excursion into MC and where to get these recipes. So let's jump in. When we look at all the armor crafting professions, this is where we'll see those few dropped BOP recipes that craft BOE items I mentioned before. For tailoring, there's only one you want to be on the lookout for, and thankfully it's farmable outside of a dungeon. It's the Robe of Winter Night, which can drop off the Cobalt Mage Weavers in Winter Spring. You know, this is the third recipe I've mentioned off these guys, so if you're going to farm them, bring a tailor with you. Bring someone else at least, as all the Dragonkins here are elite, and the Mage Weavers share spawns with the others, so you'll have to kill more to get them to spawn. Looking inside of dungeons, there's only one, and it's the Cloak of Fire off of Overmaster Pyron in BRD. There's only two other recipes that aren't world drops, and that's Mooncloth, sold by Kia in Winterspring, which every tailor in this event should be grabbing, and Mooncloth Boots, which is a tailor-only quest reward. The quest is called Sacred Cloth and can be picked up from Meliosh and Timbermaw Hold. You'll need to be friendly to accept, and requires 2 Mooncloth to turn in. You know, leatherworking is the only profession that doesn't have any high-end random world drop recipes, but there are still a ton of recipes that you can target farm. I'm going to separate these by specialization, as there's also no high-end recipes that don't require either tribal, elemental, or dragon scale leatherworking, at least until we get into the later phases. And we're going to need all three, so don't everyone go tribal just because of Devil's Horse set. We'll start with dragon scale, as this has the only dropped BOP recipe, which is the red dragon scale breastplate, dropped off of General Drakasath and UBRS. Getting this early on will definitely help with all the pally healers. For black dragon scale, all three recipes come from BRD. Shoulders drop from Emerald Ridge Marshals, legs drop from Emerald Ridge Captains, and the chest is sold by Plugger Spazring and the Grim Guzzler. I didn't include the boots here because they need fiery cores as a material, something that's going to be hard to obtain before the actual raid. But if you want the recipe, it's sold by Loktus Dark Bargainer inside BRD and requires Honored with Thorian Brotherhood. For blue dragon scale, everything is in a Jara. Shoulders drop off the 54 to 55 Elite Cliff Breakers, the chest is sold by Blimbo Gadget Spring, and the legs are taught by the dragon scale trainer. For elemental leatherworking, we have the Helm of Fire, taught by your trainer, living shoulders sold by Pratt McGrubbin and Fairless, and living leggings dropped by Deadwood Shamans in Fellwood. There's also the Storm Shroud set. The shoulders come from the 54 to 55 Elite Sons of Akarox. The chest comes from the 54 to 55 non-elite Akor and Oracles, both in Ajara, and the pants are sold by Leonard Porter in Western Plaguelands. The gloves won't be out till Phase 2, which I'll talk about later. And finally, tribal leatherworking. The Wolf's Head helm is learned from your trainer. The Iron Feather shoulders are sold by Gig at Zipcoil, and the breastplate drops from 48 to 49 elite Vile Branch Hideskinners, both located in Hinterlands. Warbear Harness and Woolizers both sold by Meliosh and Timbermaw Hold, requiring friendly reputation. I stated this as part 1, but this is probably a good time to remind you that recipes that require reputation to buy are BOP, so you'll have to grind that rep yourself. And lastly, there's the coveted Devil Source set. The gloves are sold by Nurgle and Marshall's Refuge, and the legs are a rare draw from various oozes and Angora, so get to grinding. So leatherworking was a bit of a mouthful, but unfortunately blacksmith is as well, though not as many recipes. Most things are still specialization based, but there's 2 things that aren't, or 8 if you want to be technical. These recipes are BOP, so keep that in mind. First is the Dark Iron Shoulders, which, like the plans for the Field Repair Bot, are located in a BRD as a clickable scroll on the ground. You'll need at least 285 blacksmithing to obtain these. Now, I've never leveled blacksmithing in Classic, so I can't be sure how accurate this actually is, but reading up on these, there are 4 possible spawns for the blacksmith scrolls, with only 2 scrolls actually spawning per run. And it seems that only one of the spots provides the shoulder recipe. The other 3 contain the Dark Iron Mail chest recipe. To get to this location, head to the East Garrison by going into the room with the Shadowforged lock and heading up the walkway. In that room, look immediately to your left, and in the back corner on the shelf will be the scroll. The other BOP recipe, or recipes technically, is the Imperial Plate set, Great Starter 60 plate gear. Head on down to Gadzuzan and talk to Darotane Mudsipper. He'll give you 7 quests that each reward the different pieces of the set. You'll need to be at least level 50 with 265 blacksmithing to start everything, and you'll need to turn in 270 thorium bars to get all the recipes. Yeah, that's a bit excessive, but having somebody with all these recipes will definitely help all the fresh warriors and paladins as they reach 60 with some good starter gear, which if you haven't noticed is the whole point of these videos. There's only 2 armorsmithing recipes that aren't random world drops or later phases, and that's Dark Iron Plate from Ripley's Spruce Bigot and BRD, and Lionheart Helm, which is normally only dropped in raids, but can actually be obtained through Eternium lockboxes. In fact, a lot of high-end recipes can be obtained through lockboxes, so rogues, you know what to do. For weaponsmiths, there's 10 weapons I want to mention. 2 can be made by any weaponsmith, while the other 8 require specifically sword, axe, or hammersmiths to make. And I want to mention these because of the earlier statement I made about how this info is to help the community gear up and push towards being pre-raid geared in a safer manner, and the importance of having dedicated crafters. Sure, these recipes require the most materials out of any other profession, some requiring weeks worth of transmutes, and quite frankly, when you look at them compared to other weapons available from boss drops, they're not the typical first choice. But given the rule set that we're following for this event, and the fact that the raids will be harder, we really need to take a step back and look at the whole picture. Best in slot gear to push damage isn't going to cut it for us. We need to look at every resource available and think about the possibilities that exist. This game has been theory crafted to hell and back for over 15 years now, and the Road to Rag event is going to add on to that list. And because of that, I believe some of these weapons will have a place in this event. Plus, the idea of obtaining a pre-best in slot equivalent weapon without stepping into a dungeon has a nice ring to it. So onto every random world drop recipe worth holding onto. And no, I'm not going to list these all out. Instead, here's what I'm going to do. Down in the description, I'll have a link to the datasheet I created for all this. It will go over everything I covered here and list all of the world drops. I'm also including recipes from phase 2 and 3 in this sheet. Simply put, because of the increased content schedule of Season of Mastery, and the nature of this event, we'll most likely be in at least the second or maybe even third phase before we step into MC. And if we have access to these items and recipes, I see no reason why we shouldn't use them. So, I hope these videos have been helpful to you in both understanding the importance of dedicated crafters, as well as gaining a better understanding of where to obtain recipes. Let me know if I missed anything down in the comments, and I'll see you guys soon.